Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome home. Doesn't that feel nice to hear? Welcome home. This is your home, and I'm not talking about a place. I'm talking about a state, a realization of home, of who you are, where you are, what's really happening, as opposed to what you thought was happening, where you thought you were, where you imagined yourself to be. Welcome home to the truth of where you've always been. A moment ago, before we started the recording, we were chanting that beautiful name of God. I am that on the out breath, and I am on the in breath. Let's just do it a few more times. Here we go. I am that. I am that. I am that. Once more. I am that. So, you'll notice when we do it like that, breathing out, saying the words I am, there's a pause before the I am returns. So we're breathing out, which is a declaration, I am that. And then a pause. And then the answer from the divine, that beautiful in-breath, I am. This was something that came to me very organically when I began writing the book, The Moses Code, many years ago. Because I would always see that name, Ehyeh Asher, Ehyeh, I am that I am, just like it's a one long sentence. But it was the comma, the pause, that made it come alive. Just like in that chant, I am that I am. And I've always felt that that I am is God's answer to you. God doesn't say you are. You say I am that, and God says yes you are. No, God says I am. I am. God is answering as you, really. He's returning to you as you, the breath of God. And for some reason, this has been in my heart. Maybe because I've been saying I am love, I am God, I am the Christ thousands of times in the last 5 days, because of course we had our two retreatants who we would go through the journey with them, each one of them 3 times a day, where we were chanting this over and over and over, just getting it so firm within us. And then the experience itself follows. Especially when we use the breath in that way. Now, a couple of years ago, some of you who live here, or maybe, I don't think we were doing the Zoom sessions then, but some of you may remember that I had a period where I was almost every day sharing what I called the bathtub sessions. Because when I get into hot water, something opens up inside me, creating that heat. Something would open up. So I would be in my bathtub, which is up at the very top floor on the outside, and I would just be breathing there. I would always feel something just kind of click into place, and then I would jump out real quick and I would write it down. And then I would come down the next morning and share it. Those were the bathtub sessions. They were really fun and lovely. Well, I did take a bath last night, but it didn't something opened, but it wasn't because of the bathtub. There was another heat source that was opening something in me. And I shared a little bit about this yesterday when I discovered this beautiful teacher, Sri Nagadita. How do you say it?
Nisargadatta.
Nisargadatta. Nisargadatta. I'm going to do it wrong every time just because it's funny. He's amazing. And his book, I Am That, is just incredible. So I was reading some of his beautiful work, and it was the heat that was creating inside me was just like being in the bathtub and allowing the heat of that experience to take hold. And whenever we do that, in one way or another, it has to express itself. For me, it may express itself as writing something down or singing a song. For you, it may express itself in some other way. But it has to express itself just like that out-breath, I am that, in order to have the in-breath of I am. Okay? So what I did was I just wrote down what was coming to me from the heat of Sri Nagavadata. Did I get it right that time? A little closer? You call him what? Arg. Oh, okay. Sri Arg is what Jeff said. So let me share what the heat of that experience stirred. And let's see if it stirs something in you. Because it doesn't do any good if I'm just being stirred up in my room. But if it doesn't extend and translate to stir the fire within each one of us, then it has no true value. But if we can enter together into that experience or jump together into that fire, that has great value. I wrote a poem, a number of months ago when I was in the anchor hold. It was called Jump into the Fire. And it basically said, why do you dance around the fire? Dive in. Stop dancing around just feeling the heat. We all come to the fire because we feel the heat. But now we must dive into the fire, be completely transformed. So let's see what this stirs. I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to read this all the way through once, and then I'll go back. So take a deep breath. To discover who you really are, you must first realize who you are not. To discover where you really are, you must first discover where you are not. When you release all concepts of who you are not and where you've never been, when you release all concepts of who you are not and where you've never been, who and where you really are will appear on its own. It'll happen on its own. You are the radiant center of the universe, and where you are is the radiant center of the universe. In other words, who you are and where you are exactly the same. Who you are and where you are exactly the same, the radiant center of the universe. And here's the key. Everything is the same. There is no difference in anything that is real, because what is real is beyond all comparison. What is real is beyond all comparison. To compare is to forget. As soon as we begin comparing this person to that person, this to whatever, we then forget the truth. So to compare is to forget. To forget is to seem to die. Now we've entered into the cycle of death. To seem to die. To remember is to know the impossibility of death. So take a deep breath. Let's go through this one more time. To discover who you really are, you must first realize who you are not. In order to realize your true self, you must take off the mask that you've been wearing, which seems to define the false self. It's like we've been walking around with these masks on. Maybe it's the Hulk. Maybe it's Batman. It doesn't matter who it is, but it's like one of those little plastic masks that we used to wear when we were kids for Halloween with very distinct slits. And if we choose, we can look through those slits to see the truth of who we really are. So once again, someone's been unmuted here. Sharon, I can't seem to be able to mute. There we go. Thank you, dear. To discover who you really are, you must first realize who you are not. In other words, you must be able to see through the slits of that mask. To discover where you really are, you must discover where you are not. You think you're here in a body. You think you're here in a limited experience. You are not. You're not your body. You're not in this limited experience. When you realize that, when you release all concepts of who you are and where you have never been, who and where you really are will appear on its own. You need do nothing. You don't need to do anything. You just need to let go. You need to release. That's how simple this is. And then you realize what? That you are the radiant center of the universe. And where you are is also the radiant center of the universe. So who you are and where you are the same. Everything is the same. And when we hear that through our egoic mind, what we do is we look at the lowest common denominator. Let's say a drug addict on the street and say, you mean we're all the same as that? And what the soul does is it looks at the Christ, the holy extension of the love and the loveliness of God, and say, no, we're all the same as that, no matter what. No matter what it looks like, that's what we're the same as. So everything is the same. There's no difference in anything that is real, because what is real is beyond all comparison. You see, this is the only thing the ego likes to do, is to compare between this and that and this person and another person in order to remain separate, distinct. So when we compare, we forget who we really are. And when we forget who we really are, we enter into that cycle where we seem to die because I've associated with that which seems to die. But to remember who I am, where I am, to see that only in you, to know that, to remember then is to know the impossibility of death. It's impossible for you to die. Because you are not your body. You are everything at once. And that's the only thing we're here to realize by releasing who we are not. So, that was my inspiration yesterday. But I see Vicky is back today, and I always love turning it over to her to see where she takes this. So, Victoria, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Morning, Brother James. Good morning, everybody.
Both of you.
Yeah, we missed you. Well, we've had quite an adventure into something that is nothing, and to the things that we think we are and where we are that aren't. But I have to thank my brother, because Teddy really does demonstrate, especially in what looks like moments of crisis. He fell again, hit his head, cracked it open, and we were right at the beginning of doing a wedding. And like he always does, Teddy, I thank you for this example, and I mean it. He immediately pays attention to what's real and pays no attention to what seems to be happening. And that focuses everyone, including me, around him. And I would say, as a way of life, the practice, the way to live it, is really to be so present to that connection within. However, I find that, for me, it's Jesus. Jesus, it's like, E.T. phone home. Come in, Jesus. Are we there? Are we connected in? Pay attention to that. And as we do that, whatever needs to be done, he had an accident just before I had to do the ceremony, the wedding, and I became more centered. I was like 2 seconds before, and I was shaken. And then when it was time to share, that center spoke. That center was very present. And it was a beautiful ceremony. And after it, it was that resonance of presence that happens, especially in trauma. But why wait for trauma? It's like, let's be especially present all the time. But trauma, for me, it does shake me up. I was very shaken. But it makes me pay attention. It's a critical moment for define yourself. Who and where am I quickly? And I have to live in that connection. And Teddy's been a great example of that. really, really, it's like maybe through a lot of traumas that seem to be something that's happening when nothing is happening. But it is that attention to that connection, whether we think of it as within, however we come to it, whether it's in a bathtub or over the kitchen sink, to get to click into that present connection, which brings us wherever we are, presently joining, presently giving, presently extended in simplicity but in true love. After the ceremony, the thing that everyone came up to me and said was, that was really from your heart. And I knew it was from my heart. It was from that presence. And I knew that too. And like you, Jimmy, I never prepare. So I was really shaken a moment thinking, oh God, maybe I should have prepared something and written it down. But I'm grateful that I didn't. And I'm grateful that Teddy gave me the opportunity to get imminently present and be right where I was without any thought or concern of what had happened a minute ago or what was to happen in the next minute. And to stay that way, because that's the place I want to live all the time. And then because Teddy and together we're going through an important learning, healing opportunity, we're faced with that opportunity now more than ever, every day. So it is true, this is a way of life, not to define ourselves by where and who we seem to have been and masks we've worn, but to be very present to that connection that is what we are, and live and rest and identify in that, and let everything else be what it is.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks.
You know, as you're speaking, the words that are coming to me are the unshakable center. And Teddy is rooted in that unshakable center. So no matter what seems to be happening around us, we are rooted in that unshakable place, that center point, where we are the radiant center of the universe, like the thing said. And that's the great example of someone like Teddy or you or anyone else who is so rooted in that experience that even when a trauma happens, you're unshaken. At least you go through whatever experience you go through, obviously, but it doesn't shake you from the peace of God. Teddy, you want to speak about that?
I gotta say this. I really feel like there's a deeper letting go being made available to me. And I don't even know what that means, because when we get to the point where we know we have to let everything go and do it, something extraordinary happens as an experience. And yet, that time has come around several times. So there's a constancy to it and an understanding that I have of it. Although I don't necessarily know what it's going to bring, I do know that in a sense, I'm being offered a deeper release. And who knows what that brings or how it looks. It's just an interesting time in that way. I was thinking, when you're reading, it's really funny because, words are symbols twice removed, and only the ego uses words. And at the same time, only the ego makes corrections as well. So when the idea that there's an ever-expanding universe and that it even has a center is an idea of separating the center off from the totality of the universe. And in a sense, we are the totality of the universe. And in that, there is no center. It's just ever expanding, which is what we are. And I think there's a point that we get to where, we have to release all of our thoughts again and again and again. And I just feel like that's what's being offered. Lana actually said something the other day, and it was a different way of looking at it. and it felt true. It's like the ego has the ability to cause these things when we're distracted, in a sense. And it does cause these things so as to help us forget what our purpose is, rather than to stay in the remembrance of what our purpose is. And instead of looking at it as, you're being punished, in a sense, it's you're being shown how the ego works, and being offered the ability to remember, even in the depth of the ego experience, what's really going on. And that's sort of what it was like when I was falling, because everything went in slow motion and I knew everything that was happening. It was really interesting. So I just feel like, and if it's me, it's all of us. We're all being offered the availability of a deeper release if we're willing to let everything go. And, we accumulate even thoughts about things. And it's even time to let those thoughts about things and our understanding of things go, so that there's a broader inclusion and a deeper release, or a more complete or total entrance into what we know as truth. And that's what I feel is happening. We're all being offered a deeper remembrance and a more total truth. And if we want to go that way, we let everything go.
That's beautiful. And if you want, we can make this real simple. Here it is. Simply do this. Be still. Lay aside all thoughts of what you are, what God is, all concepts you've learned about the world, and all images that you hold of yourself. Let them go. Empty your mind of everything it thinks is either true or false, or good or bad, of every thought it judges worthy, and all the ideas of which it's ashamed. Let them all go. Hold on to nothing. Don't bring with you one thought of the past, nor one belief that you ever learned from anything. Forget this world. Forget everything you're hearing right now. And then come with wholly empty hands unto God. Wholly empty hands. That's really the essence of everything that's being shared here. Just let it all go. Don't try and figure it out. Just realize that it already figured you out. You were figured out from the time you extended from that divine source. Not from the time you were born, but even before that. You were figured out. So you don't need to figure anything out. You are figured out. And that's all you need to know. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So, do you guys want to share anything else? Vicki? Teddy?
Jimmy, this was something that I didn't expect. It was a beautiful wedding ceremony on top of a mountaintop, and it was very interesting because there was no communication. There was no cell phone use, and it was a 45-minute to an hour ride up a mountain to get to Piney Hill, where this wedding ceremony was. And you could not get in a regular car and get there because the road was too rough. It wasn't a road, it was a dirt patch all the way up this mountain. So there was no communication. And what I realized is when I was present, and they told me this, Teddy was coming up, I was ahead because I was part of the wedding party, and Teddy was coming up with Teddy, our son, and my sister Noreen. And they told me all this before the ceremony, and it did shake me up. And there's no way to find out anything. And Noreen did find a place that she could make one phone call later. So we did find out he was all right. But what I realized when I was doing that ceremony, I hit a pitch of such true joy that it surprised me, because I was like, oh my gosh, it was with the majesty of these mountains, the realization of the majesty of unconditional love that we were coming to celebrate, a marriage, two people coming together. But there was such an experience of joy of that we were being aware and living in that, and that was the present experience, overwhelmed me. And I think it overwhelmed everybody, because it was the fruit of, and it's like you saying, I had to let go of everything. Because, and the only moment is to be very present. And no matter what, true presence is a moment of joy. And it was a great experience in the midst of, because I was very shaken. And to see that the shaken doesn't belong to who we really are. And the choice to stand and just be present brings us to who we are. Because there's nothing I could do except allow myself to be shaken and say, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm shaken. I don't know what I'll say. Dear God, I'm all yours, help me. And then to be brought into a present joy and to let words come out somehow that match it was really a miracle to me. So, thanks.
I was thinking, what you were saying is absolutely true. Simply do this. But if we're here in space and time and we simply do that, when that experience sort of comes to an end, so to speak, we're given ideas and we have to do it again. So because those ideas aren't true either. None of our ideas are true, no matter how in alignment with the truth they are. None of them are true. When you were talking, there's a song, and I think it's by Tom Petty, called Free Falling. Mm-hmm. And that's it. You just got to free fall. And don't stop. Just keep free falling. That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Johannes wants to say something. Please come up.
Thank you.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Teddy, and I love that song.
Yes, thanks, Vicky and Teddy. While you were reading those beautiful, did you write that last night? That's what you say?
Mm-hmm.
See? And the first sentence, it says that for you to realize who you are, you must know who you are not. And I was thinking about Carl Jung used to call that the shadow. And he used to say, you have to face the shadow. The shadow is what we call the ego. All these false beliefs that we have about ourselves, and which is what the Course in Miracles calls removing the blocks to the awareness of love. It's all the same. It's all the same. It's just to realize who we really are. To do that, we must not be afraid of seeing what we have believed who we are. Because then we just let them go. It's just shadow. It's just false beliefs. So thank you for that. I love it. That's my passion.
What's that?
To release all those false beliefs, to allow the Holy Spirit to show us who we really are. And to do that, we must not be afraid. And I'm using that because as a minister, I do a lot of workshops and seminars. And I notice that we as human beings sometimes are afraid of seeing that which is nothing. It's just nothing. Those are false beliefs. Shadows, ghosts, call it whatever you want, the ego. But it's just to go beyond that, to that place of silence, place of where divine is who we really are. That's what we are here to do.
Amen.
So thank you, Brother James.
You are
Francis.
welcome. And as a reminder, this amazing lady here is going to be leading the session for a couple of weeks with Vicky and Teddy whenever they can be there. I'll be on vacation for a little bit, heading back to Portland. So it's so great. And we'll see what emerges. It's going to be fresh and new, but it's going to be the same. It's always the same. It's always the
Yes.
same lesson.
Yes.
It's just from a different angle, always.
That reminds me that I want to do a blessing for you because our brother James Francis is going to travel today. So in unity, there's a blessing for children. And we are all children. You are a child.
I am.
A
Trust
child
me.
of God. So what we are going to do, and everybody there online, no, we are going, please hold your hands and let's repeat after me, please. Brother James Francis, we love you.
Brother James Francis, we love you.
We bless you.
We bless you.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
We behold the Christ in you.
We behold the Christ in you.
And we see you doing even greater things.
And we see you doing even greater things.
Amen, amen, and amen. Blessings to you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, wow.
It's Tony's name.
Tone my name. Okay, you can tone my name. James
Yeah,
Francis.
we do that. Okay,
Go for it.
ready? Go. James.
Man, I'm going to leave more often. That was awesome. Thank you, dear family. Wow. Wow. I'm just so grateful. I mean, Robbie, your thing's not going anymore. Let me see if I can just turn this around so you can see this beautiful family of light.
Yes.
This amazing community that we share. How can I get out of the way? There we go. We are all here loving you at Namaste. Thank you so much for joining us. I got it. Thank you. Thank you. You're always so helpful, Jack. Thank you. We are so grateful. So let's just take this and just keep it resonating and echoing inside you. I am that. I'm all of it right now. The unshakable center. Let's see if we can find that today and hold that space. So, with that, we will do our final prayer, and we will do it the way that Johannes taught us to do it. We say the light of God surrounds us, and then we say, I am the light of God throughout the whole thing. Here we go. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. All is well. And so it is. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed day. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Happy
Thank you,
trails,
James.
Brother James.
Have a great trip, James.
Safe travel.